Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for what's going to be a real bumper edition of Last Word on Spurs. I have to just firstly apologise. I know there's about 1,000 of you waiting for us to go live on one of the streams and it completely cancelled. So I will apologise for that. For some reason, the live comments weren't filtering through. And we always know you love to get involved and obviously have your say on Last Word on Spurs. And that's what it's about, made by the fans, for the fans. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes or on Spotify across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. Now, I have to let everyone into a little secret. When I contacted these wonderful gentlemen in relation to this show, which was a good 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think, the plan was to provide you with a keep, sell or buy show. Subsequently, since then, Spurs are on the verge of potentially their 5th signing of the summer. I hear you say 5th. How can it be 5th? Well, if we're counting Kulusevski and potentially triggering Pedro Porro, that's how we get to 5. And of course, the imminent signing of Manor Solomon on his way as well, and potentially for a 4-5-year contract. We're getting a mixture of different reports, but we'll cover that all during this bumper edition of Last Word on Spurs. But let's go to the wonderful guests that make the show what it is. I'm joined by the crazy instructor, conductor, runner. It can only be him. It's Mr. Lee McQueen's back in the house. Lee, how are you, bud?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. Thank you. Great to be back on with Adam Patrick as well, and obviously your good self, Rick. Look, you're smiling now because you can actually say words come out your mouth that we've actually made 5 signings. I mean, you are literally you're getting a nosebleed here, Rick. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah. It was only 7 days ago, Lee. I was saying, why are they going so slow? And then they're embarrassing me, really. Whether they're good enough, quality enough, we'll come on to that.
It's the train.
Oh, I hope so. Look, we're gonna keep putting, obviously, the coal in the tracks, right? 100%.
That's it, mate. Keep stacking in there because look, there's a lot of work to do, which we're obviously going to get into tonight. There's a lot of work to do in that team, and Postecoglou, check that out, Gareth. He's just giving me jit for not being able to say it. Postecoglou, it started work as long as Scott Munn as well. So lots to do and lots to talk about.
Absolutely. Also making up our great panel tonight. Tonight's having back on. Listen, let's see what he gets his thoughts on where we are with transfers. Wonderful Patrick Tyrant's back on. Pat, things are beginning to heat up in the world of Tottenham in the transfer window.
Yeah, things are looking good, dare I say. I'm loving the activity. We have some incomings and some outgoings and lots to talk about. So I'm excited to be on with Adam, obviously yourself, Ricky and Lee. And shout out to everyone tuned in already. And I think it's going to be a really good show. So let's go. Let's do it.
It is indeed. Fair to say, when I reached out to this man a while back, we were, like I say, planning a keep, sell, buy show at a time when Spurs are probably looking to start the market fairly quiet. And since then, all the activity has gone on. You would have known this man. He's come on the show many, many times discussing the financial aspect of Tottenham and so much more. We'd like to have the wonderful Adam Osper back on the show. Ads, how are you, bud?
Good, mate. Thank you. Thanks for the nice intro, as always. Makes me sound good.
Pleasure. We're on a dizzy heights, ads, of a 5th signing potentially. So I bet even you can't believe what's going on.
Yeah,
I can see you kind of
generous saying 5, mate. It's 3. Come on.
Do you know what? I've got to say, Ed, when you first started doing Last Word on Spurs was about 4 or 5 years ago, you were the most upbeat, positive fan I've ever come across. I think they've worn you down. When I see some of your tweets over the last year or so, they've definitely worn you down, Ed, haven't they?
Back end of last year, I was close to hanging myself. It was terrible, wasn't it? It was just losing the will to live. And then they're sucking me back in a bit now. I'm getting a little bit more interested, a little bit more. I'm just like,
this is the problem.
It's all right. It's positive. It's positive.
It is indeed. It is really positive indeed. Well, listen, we'll start with the breaking news to begin with at the start of this show. So the breaking news on Sunday is that Tottenham Hotspur have agreed a deal to sign Manor Solomon on either a 4 or 5 year contract. We're currently getting a mixture of reports on those. Fabrizio currently reporting, I believe it's a 5-year deal. Charlie Eccleshare of The Athletic reporting it's a 4-year contract. We shall wait to see. He will formally become Tottenham's 4th signing of the summer after Dejan Kulusevski, Vicario and James Maddison once he does complete a medical. He impressed during a loan spot at Fulham last season where he scored 5 goals in 24 games and is available on a free transfer after leaving Shakhtar Donetsk this summer. When you look at the stats in general, he scored a Premier League goal every 145 minutes last season, the 8th best goals to minutes ratio in the entire league, better than the myriad of high-pro offensive players, including Tony, Alvarez, Rashford, Salah, Martinelli, and Jesus. I'm really bigging him up here. Lee, let's come to you firstly. I think when he was originally reported by Dan Kilpatrick as an interest, he was seen as a club signing. So if he's a club signing to probably replace the outgoing Lucas Moura, what do you make of it?
Well, I can guarantee you one thing: he ain't better than any of them players that you just read out. Definitely not. Although it's nice.
Bring us back down to earth, Macca.
Well, I just let's have it right. Let's have it real. He's not better than Martinelli for crying out loud. But look, I mean, I don't know much about the guy. I mean, I literally have not been on social media all day today. So I've been doing some other stuff. And when I did pick my phone up to come on to do a bit of research, I see Romano giving it a here we go, and I'm like, oh right, okay, that's come out a bit out of the blue for me. But as you just said there, so a bit of a free transfer worked. I think Pat was saying before. Pat's got some stats on him about coming off the bench and stuff. So maybe it's a prop-up signing, as you just said. Lucas is gone, so we need some covering there. Does that maybe mean that we're not going to be going in for a Harvey Barnes type? Which would be a shame if that is obviously the case. But we've got to get into this as well, because I mean I've just written down Perisic's name down here in my blue book, and I don't think he's going to be playing as a left back this season, is he? So if he's going to stay at a club, he's going to be playing as a forward, you would imagine, or as a winger. So there's quite a lot of stuff to sort out. But by all accounts, really young player, good prospect. Tottenham do like a freebie, don't they? Pratigy does love a freebie, and we're down. Although I got dog abuse for saying it on Twitter over a week ago, we did get it confirmed earlier in the week from Alistair Gold that Pratigy is still consulting in some way, shape, or form, and therefore he does like a freebie, doesn't he, old Pratigy? So happy days.
Yeah, I mean, just on Solomon, I think Spurs that they've already moved the time down in relation to personal terms after negotiations between the club and Solomon's agents, Pina Zahavi. Solomon's Shakhtar contract was due to expire on the 31st of December, and he was expected to return to Ukraine this summer after his temporary stay at Fulham. However, given, as we know, the war in Ukraine, there is a loophole that has allowed Tottenham to essentially engineer the player to come to the club and, of course, come on a freebie. Pat, let's get your views on it. He will probably replace, as we've said, the outgoing Lucas Moura. Have we upgraded, Pat, in terms of a squad option there, in your opinion?
It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say because he's 21, 22 in July. So he's 22 literally in a couple of days or weeks' time. He's young. He's shown potential at Fulham. But, I mean, even in the Fulham squad, no disrespect to Fulham, he started 4 out of the 19 times he played for Fulham. So even at Fulham, he was a squad/rotational piece. He's decent in the sense that he can play off the left wing. He can play as a number 10. He can even play on the right. He likes to come deep, pick up the ball, dribbles. He doesn't really create much. He had 4 goals, no assists. Looking at his, he only took 11 shots last season, 7-1 target. So the output's not really there for me. Shooting accuracy, 78%. Passing accuracy, 86%. He's one for the future, but, so if we basically add more depth, so say we add a Alex Scott or we add a Harvey Barnes and we have him, then I like it. Saying he's 23, I've seen from numerous reports that he's 21. I don't know. I've seen a lot of things.
We can bump him up, Pat. Yeah. We can bump it up. We can bump him up. Don't worry. We can do that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know with Manor Solomon. He's looked good when the goal he scored in the FA Cup was nice from outside the box. But yeah, it's hard to say this early in the window to have 3 signings, potentially 5, depending how you look at it, is good work. But at the end of the window, then we can really assess it. So like Lee's saying, if this guy is one of the attacking options that we include to go forward for next year, then I'm not really going to be that happy. But if he's one of many, then fantastic, bring him in, man. Because for us to move forward, we do need to refresh the squad, move the deadwood. So, if we lose Lucas, if we lose this player, and we bring in some fresher, younger, hungrier talents, then I don't mind that. He is good in terms of his skill and dribbling, but it's hard to say if he's going to be an upgrade on Lucas, because Lucas did actually provide some decent moments at times. So that's my thoughts on it.
It's interesting, Ads, coming over to you. I think there was a consensus going into the summer window that we might have to ship out a few before we bring some in. And obviously, we're going to come on to Winks leaving the club, but potentially Spurs are on for number 5. I know you said I'm being really generous there, including Kulusevski and us triggering the Porro deal. I can see the laughter in your face. But What do you think, adds in relation to this Solomon deal? Does it suit Tottenham? Are we upgrading, in your opinion?
I mean, I think the guys have been a bit negative on a couple of things. I think, the reality is when you look at Spurs now, the front three is the front three. And that's not, on the proviso Kane starts, whoever comes in's a sub, right? You've got Richarlison who's in there. Postecoglou likes to play supposedly 4-3-3. So then you need to think, okay, you've got Maddison that's going to go in there. Where's he going to play? Where's Porro going to play? Because he's not a fullback. Could he end up being as one of the three at the front? Potentially, you don't know. So the reality is, whoever you get in, this guy's coming in. Stats I don't really bother me that much because Fulham aren't a great team. So there's, I'm sure you could go through most of Fulham's squad and most of their attacking players won't have great stats because they're an average team. So you can
apart from Mitrovic, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, apart from Mitrovic, right? So I don't think you can read too much into that. As this guy says, much better than Lucas. I'm fed up of Lucas having a young kid on the bench who is going to come in and sit on the bench, right? And actually be able to develop. Everyone goes on and people talk about it all the time online. Look at Brighton's philosophy. I listened to a chat with their chief exec and he said every player they buy, they bring in understudy to come through 2 or 3 years earlier. So if you want to develop out and have young players coming through, I don't see the problem in doing this. You're getting a kid who's got Premier League experience. He's played at a decent club in Shakhtar. He's no risk on the price. He can sit on the bench and develop and, play occasionally. I don't think it's a major risk. He's not obviously going to be one of the marquee signings, but it's probably a good young squad addition.
If I can ask you, Ed, there is that rule out there that FIFA ruled in May that all foreign-based players in Ukraine or Russia will be able to suspend their contracts again for a further year. With Solomon's contract suspended, his agreement with the Ukrainian club will lapse at the end of the year and therefore be able to join Tottenham for free. We know this ruling was made in March 2022 following the Russian invasion. The clause is known as Annex 7. That means Solomon can extend his deal past its current contract expiry date of December the 31st and join a new suitor as a free agent. Is there any concerns from you at the outside as looking in that Spurs may have to go to a tribunal for the player from anything you've read or seen?
No, the worst case is they would have to go to a tribunal. And if he's young, it still wouldn't end up costing you a lot of money. I don't know how long he had left on his contract before, before this season. But It would be how old is he? How long has he got left? It's not going to cost a fortune anyway. So I don't think it's a major risk. I'm not quite sure how the authorities could lay that back onto Spurs to pay when FIFA have put in that ruling legally. But if they do, and it went to a tribunal, most young tribunals, you're talking 5-10 million. They're not going to come out and say, right, you've got to pay 50 million because that would never happen. So I wouldn't see it. I see it as like no risk at all in the modern game.
Okay, what we are going to do, like I say, there's in relation to the player, he's obviously got to pass a medical and then he will be a Tottenham player. So, of course, we'll give more legs to the story once he does become a Spurs player. And what we are going to do now is just have that confirmation that's come through in relation to Ange Postecoglou's coaching staff, which come through at the beginning of last week. It feels like really, really old news now, but given the nature of just how quick things have gone this week with Tottenham, we haven't had a chance to cover it on this show. So Spurs confirmed Ange Postecoglou's coaching staff ahead of the team's return to pre-season, which we've already seen at the start of July. We have seen, of course, that the 57-year-old will be joined by North London in Chris Davis and former Premier League player Millie Jedinak. Davis has a wealth of experience in the game, having previously worked on the coaching staff at Swansea, Liverpool, Celtic and Leicester, alongside Brendan Rodgers, who subsequently replaced Postecoglou in that Celtic hot seat. Postecoglou, as I said, will have a familiar face alongside him in Millie Jedinak as the former midfielder captain Australia when the new Spurs boss was previously in charge of his country. Appointed as assistant coach, Jedinak arrives at Tottenham following a spell as a youth coach and loan development coach at Villa. The incoming duo will work alongside Ryan Mason and Matt Wells, who are remaining as Tottenham as assistant coaches, with Mason finishing the 22-23 campaign, of course, as the interim head coach, with Wells acting as assistant. But as we have agreed and have mentioned as well, Mason did agree to take up that role Postecoglou offered him after they spoke, of course, on his first day. And finally, Rob Birch comes in, who will take on the role of first-team goalkeeper coach, coming through the Spurs Academy in the early 2000s before joining Sheffield Wednesday in 2007. He previously did hold the Spurs Academy goalkeeping coach until 2019 before taking on roles with the FA, Fulham, Bournemouth and Club Brugge. So Postecoglou has got his coaching staff in place. But what we are going to do for our listeners on audio, we're going to play you out Postecoglou's first full-length interview, which took place, of course, at the weekend. Lee, there were some lovely words there from Postecoglou for our listeners on audio that would have heard that there. What was your first feeling, Lee, on the back of what was more of an extensive interview rather than the minute he gave us at the point of being appointed? Are you starting to warm to the man?
Thanks, bubbling. I mean, look, I wasn't as opposed to him coming on board as some others. Pat, no, I'm joking. We're going down that route again. No, I'm messing about, man. But I was quite in favour of him coming in. Like everyone knows that I wanted Pochettino, and the fact that Postecoglou is now come in, and I called it tier 1, as you remember. I called it for anyone else, all these Romana, anyone else, mate. I was go and have a look in the archives. But no, I mean, I think him coming in, the way he talks, the way he sets up, we've all renewed our season tickets, right? And it got to the point where all I want to see is somebody doing some sort of attacking football and like enjoying ourselves and giving it a go. We're definitely getting that out of this guy. I think some of the patterns of play are going to look fantastic. I think the fact that we're getting signings through the door really quickly as well is great. I mean, what a coincidence, eh, lads, viewers and listeners, that we hired Scott Munn, who's Australian nationality. We hired Ange Postocoglou, who's obviously Australian nationality, and we're going to Australia for the pre-season tour. I mean, that is these weird things happen, don't they, in life and in football. But I think him coming, some of the words he's saying is exactly what we want to hear. But I think the key difference is when he says them, they're authentic, that he actually means them. And you can tell when somebody's faking it out. You can tell when somebody's reading off the script. You can tell when somebody isn't being authentic. And this guy is. So whether or not he can deliver in this league with Tottenham Hotspur, with these players, obviously we're gonna have to wait and see, Rick. But what he's saying is definitely authentic, and he's like a little bit like Adam. He's got me to say bubbling here. He's got me definitely. I still ain't wearing the stuff, but I might start wearing stuff again.
We're expecting, Lee, can I just say, we're expecting Macca when we start in the pre-season games, you have the full clubber on. No excuse.
But to be fair, he looked good in the clubber, to be fair.
He does,
Today I see him, I thought, hang on, he's all clobbered up. So, yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm definitely behind him, and I'm definitely behind where the club are. Look, the club's got massive problems still. Do not even worry about that. But like I said in a couple of shows before, I've been so negative against my massive positivity, my normal positive self. I'm just done with being negative for a bit, so I'm just being positive. And look, you've got Maddison, man. Come on, man. He is an absolute game changer.
Can we not enjoy ourselves towards the 12th or 13th of August and then go off again?
Yeah, we can. Once we kick off against Brentford, we can all have a moan again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone did that on Twitter before. Like they literally, when you put the thing up of this, they replied, "Leaving us short again. Only 2 signings." I was just like, "Wow, we're like 3 days into the transfer window."
He's worse than you, Ed. He's worse than you.
I think that was Rick replying from his burner.
It's my burner account. I'm about to say, don't trust anything. Pat, coming over to you, there was some lovely words there. Look, for our listeners and all, they would have heard, obviously, that into it full, but I'll just pick out some. He said, "I love to win. That's the main thing. I've done that wherever I've been. The football is designed to bring success. Alongside that, it's really important to me that there's an element of what I think most fans and players want to be associated with, and that's football that's exciting, that people talk about, not just the end result, but also the manner in which you played your football." Now, I've got to say, for anybody that's not on board at the moment with the manager, I can't believe when you hear the words, and just for what we've gone through the last 3.5, 4 years of those defensive style managers, how can you not be excited for what's to come, Pat? Even you, Pat, now. I can see there's a smile there. You get excited, Pat?
Even me. Yeah, you know what? I've got to be careful how I word this, but what I will say is that I am excited to see what, like Lee said, I'm excited to see what he can deliver and if he can deliver it. I had my doubts and reservations whether he was the man for the job, but obviously I want him to succeed. I want him to be fantastic at Tottenham. I want him to better what Pochettino's done, and for obviously for us to first things first, let's enjoy the football again, because for the last 2 or 3 years, the football has been so negative and anti-football, but we were willing to sacrifice that, hoping that it would lead to trophies. It didn't. And obviously, in the end, we all ended up with egg on our faces, and we essentially went backwards. So now we need a real gut out, rip the squad apart, which we're hopefully doing now, and for us to move forward. And, he does say the right things. And one of my criterias for the new manager was that I wanted someone that wanted to be here. He didn't feel like he was doing us a favor. He actually wanted to be at Tottenham, was proud to be at Tottenham, and was happy to represent the club and obviously the players and push the club forward. With Conte, you always felt that you were treading on eggshells, and he was bigger than the club, and at any moment he could implode and then obviously do what he did. Jose Mourinho, the same sort of thing. But with Ange, with Postecoglou, it does feel like he's happy to be here. He feels like he's worked hard to be here, and that he really wants to take that next step with us. And that is a big positive for me. So, credit to him. Now, I hope he can deliver. We have to be patient as well. We have to remember that we are a club that finished 8th last season. As much as we want to push on, we want to be in the top 6, it may take time. There's a lot of things going on with a lot of clubs, like Newcastle being back in European football as in the Champions League. You've got Aston Villa who are back in playing European football. You've got all these clubs that will have their own, mini dilemmas, and they're going to have to figure out how they attack things. So hopefully us not being in Europe, which is what I wanted. I didn't want us to be in the Conference League. I wanted us to have a clean slate at the league and domestic trophies. And hopefully Ange will take them seriously. So there is a lot of work to do. It is positive. I mean, the thing is, sometimes like Lee and like Adam said, sometimes when we do positive work and all you see is negativity underneath it, I really don't get it. All I can do is judge them on what they're doing right now. And so far, it has been positive. Yes, we all know we need centre-backs. We need quality centre-backs. We still need options. But so far, for the time that has elapsed and what we've done, it is very positive. So I can only go off that. We know what kind of profile we need in terms of the centre-backs. Obviously, I don't want to get into it yet. We'll probably get into that later. But Maddison coming in, fantastic. Solomon coming in for depth is a good signing. The goalkeeper, again, I didn't know much about him. I'm not going to lie. I wanted David Raya. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, he looks like he's going to be a good goalkeeper. He may need time. But so far, so good. All we can do is work on what we've done so far. And to be fair, we've done a lot more than other clubs. So as long as we continue and don't rest on our laurels, it will be a good window. And hopefully Ange can really get to grips, with the returning players, decide quickly who he wants and who he doesn't want. We've all seen the video from yesterday of everyone walking in. There was a lot said about
we're going to go on to that. I promise you we're going to come on to that.
So just Ange needs to figure out who he wants and who he doesn't. I'm sure he's already decided that. I don't want to see no news about players not wanting to leave and they're ready to stay here. And if your time is up, your time is up. With all due respect, it's time to go. And but so far so good. All I can do is comment on what we've done.
What I will say, Pat, before I forget it, because you alluded to it there, other than the fact that in the last 48 hours, everybody's become almost body language experts now. As to every player coming in, he's not interested. Get him out.
Crackers is one of them.
I think poor Crackers is still, bless him. I think he's recovering from his DMs, bless him. He's a River to Legends night. He's been invited to, or God knows what's in those DMs, bless him. I will say, Richard is one of the most nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. So please, love Crackers, bless him. He's going to be on a lot of shows to come. But bless him, he's had an interesting weekend on Twitter, as all of us have. Elon Musk looking at you, my friend. Let me come round to you. Some lovely words there we've mentioned from Postecoglou. Another lovely statement. People want to see their team scoring goals, being exciting, not conceding goals, being aggressive in their approach. All these kind of things that everyone seeks in their own football team. That's what I want to try and provide. You're never going to get it right in all aspects, but the base of what we want to do will be there. A team that wins things and ultimately to entertain our fans. And I know, Ads, we exchanged messages at the end of Conte's reign and Stellini's reign. I know both of us were feeling really disillusioned. And for you to be smiling at the moment tells me that I think you're excited again, potentially.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of the comments. I'm going to come onto those comments in a minute because there's like people are misinterpreting, being remotely positive with Levy's pulled the wool over your eyes again. It's not that. So on Postecoglou, look, like I said, I've never hated. I've been on Spurs for 25, 30 years. I think I've never hated as much going as I did last season. I actually didn't want to go there, and it's I just can't be bothered. So, his positive attitude, the way when you've read about him, watched him, seen his teams play, that's all really positive. And look, the reality is with our front three firing under Conte, we beat most teams because that front three is good enough to beat most teams, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. They are three of the best attackers in Europe. And if you can get a tune out of them, you are already in a pretty strong position. The bit that we don't know, which Lee sort of touched on, is whether he's going to be like Ozzy Ardiles, where we're going to be all gung-ho. But it could be, we don't know. That's the reality.
I remember that ad.
Yeah, but people were posting. Someone posted that the other day. Someone literally posted that the other day with Richarlison and Maddison as the famous five. So we've got no idea. We could get massively exposed, because he's out of his depth, because he's moved. We don't know, or actually, like we're all saying, we might finish sixth, but actually have a real go, score some goals, enjoy going to football and stuff like that, and maybe see some progress. And just on the transfer bit, people are getting Raya this and this one. Look, if over the past 6 months Spurs had been linked to the Italian and just signed him, no one would be going for the cheap option. There we go. No one would have said anything. Get this guy. Everyone would have been, get the Italian, get it over the line, get it done, Levy. Just get the guy. He's Italian's number 2. But because we were linked to Raya, everyone's like, this is the best keeper in the world I've ever seen. We have to get him. And then it didn't happen. They got somebody else who's meant to be very good. That happens all the time in football transfers. Even like the Harvey Barnes one, I'm not really bothered about Harvey Barnes. He didn't always start for Leicester. He was in and out of the team, and he's going to cost you upwards of 50 million. Is that a great signing? That's not a great signing for that much money. I don't really think that is. Again, for somebody that's going to sit on the bench. So, the positivity is around, we're definitely obviously going to get a goalkeeper. We've got supposedly a decent goalkeeper. Maddison is a great signing. He's an attacking player. You're thinking, if we're going to be a bit more attacking, can you get a tune out of Basuma again? And then you're thinking, okay, there's the basis there of a good structure of a team. We obviously need to sort out the defence. The bit with the defence is the really interesting one, because we've got like 600 fullbacks stroke wingers. You just think
we saw Arthur, man, but coming back on the pre-season.
Yeah. I know, but you're sitting there. I forgot about some. I forgot about Reguilon. Like, there's all these ones. You're like, where? What? And especially if he's going to play this 4-3-3 formation, you're thinking, my God, where? So it's going to be really interesting to see how that sort of bit gets looked at.
I agree. We are going to come on to pre-seasons. Again, there's some interesting facts that you yourself and obviously Pat have picked up on there. But just to finish, Lee, if I can, this obviously Postecoglou first interview. Again, I've just got to say some of the lovely words that are coming out from it. He says it's not just about going out there and saying this is wonderful, what a great experience. I've taken the responsibility on a massive football club with great history, with a supporter base that's craving football and more great moments to add to the historical base we've already got. Now, when I read that, I know people think I'm corny by saying this, it does send goosebumps down your spine, just the words there, because we haven't heard that from the last 2-3 managers. And I think Pat made a great point that, those managers that have come have maybe felt that, apart from Nuno, that the club is actually above that they're actually above the club in terms of what they've achieved. But I think the great thing is that with this man coming in, I think he does fully respect where he's at. I think he's humbled and grateful for the opportunity. And maybe that's what we need. Someone that's going to take this club on, absolutely love it like the fans do, and actually also enjoy it. I just got the feeling that Conte and Mourinho towards the end, and I know you boys are not in it, they just didn't enjoy it. And I think Postecoglou will try and enjoy it. There's a big rebuild to be done, which of course we're going to come on to. But look, I think Pat nailed it. The most important thing is that it's exciting if players are coming in, they want to be here. If the manager wants to be here as well, that's a recipe, Lee, for success that we haven't seen in the last 3-4 years. Definitely since Poch was at the job, Lee.
Well, I completely agree. And I think I put it up on the comments earlier when somebody said it in the comments about what he said to Madders to get him over the line. And Madders comes out. Maddison would not have said that in an interview, like if it didn't happen. Again, that authenticity for him to turn around and say, look, we're doing this, whatever, are you on the train or not? Basically, that's what he said. You on the crazy train with me or not? Because if you are, then let's go. But if you're not, you're going to see a completely different Spurs. And, we're going to do it with or without you. And that got Maddison, didn't it? It got him. He stepped thinking, hang on, I quite fancy this. So that's really positive, I think, on that side of things. I mean, you look at the business, just touching on the transfers, it's really difficult because you look at Ndombele, 55, 60, 65 million, whatever you want to believe you read. Lo Celso, 42 million. Sanchez, 42 million. And all three of them, you would probably every single one of us would ship out tomorrow. And they've all been already out on loan, two of them out of them three that I've just mentioned. They're big signings. I mean, Richarlison as well, to be fair, 60 million. He scored two goals, 3 goals for us, 2 in the Champions League, 1 in the league. So there's a massive improvement that needs to happen with Richarlison as well. By the way, I think will happen under Postecoglou. Nice. But I also think as well that some of these other signings that we've had, yes, we've had them now for a long time under Poch's first reign. But when they first started coming in, Alderweireld was cheap. You know, Jan Vertonghen was like 9 million. Alderweireld was like 11 million at the time. You know, Eric Dyer, I know, don't shoot me. But, you know, he's been a brilliant servant for the club. And he has been good at times throughout his career at Tottenham. He was £3.5 million. So, you know, the signings and the transfers and all that sort of stuff, it isn't exactly... You can't just say, "Oh, we ain't spent the money, so therefore they're going to be good or bad." Doesn't work like that. And Maddison's a prime example. Mason Mount has just gone to Chelsea for 60 million. We've just signed James Maddison for 40. Now, not being funny, who would you rather have, Mason Mount or James Maddison? For me, it's Maddison all day long. I think he's a better player. I think he's got assists over the last 5 seasons. I think he averages something like, 19 goals and assists over the five seasons, every single season. I mean, that is some serious left foot, right foot. He scores free kicks, drops the shoulder, takes people on. I mean, this guy's proper top.
He's never going to score a free kick again.
Can I just say, Lee, after all that,
he's going to be hitting the wall every single time, mate. His corner delivery's gone.
That's it. Gone. See ya.
Can I double check, Lee? You have got some material left for the Maddison bit of the show. You haven't gone too overboard there. You've got some more material, right?
Don't worry, I've got all my material.
Yeah. We've got some more stuff. But I mean, I think the point being that, you know, when you come back to Ange and that whole comment to get Maddison over the line or Madders over the line, you know, essentially I've got him thinking about it. But if he's doing that with Maddison, and he's not on a free transfer. Obviously, he's got a year left on his contract. He's going to take a 50% pay cut in the Championship. He was definitely going to move and go to another club, and he chose to come to Tottenham. If he's doing it with Maddison, can he do that with other players like centre backs? We absolutely need centre backs in this football club, which I know we're coming on to. But that, again, it just gives us a bit of confidence, doesn't it? That the regime is doing something different. You know, they are doing business early again, like they did last year, and Pratigy is still cooking in the background a little bit. But we've now obviously got Scotty Munn in the mix now. We've obviously got Ange Postocoglou taking training sessions and really getting his thoughts under there. If this team starts firing on the front foot, it could just be really, it's momentum, isn't it, guys, girls, listeners? It is momentum that starts to just build. And once you start shoveling that coal in that train and it starts flying, you don't know, could win the league, Rick.
Oh no, here we go. I just want to play.
He's not happy about this because we're too happy. We're too happy at the moment.
I just want to play Lee back his reaction to Southampton. I'm joking. If only I could go back 3 months to the 3-3. I tell you, if only I could have the difference what 3 months does to the Spurs.
We're not getting carried away.
Nah, not at all. We're wrapped up by Christmas, weren't we?
What I would say though, and I always talk about this, and it's really, really important in my view anyway. We're talking about the data and we're talking about recruitment and data driven, all that sort of stuff. Look at the data of the league table of the last 12 seasons. 60 points, was only 2 points off of 6th places. I know we finished 8th, but finishing in the table is the same as the transfer fee. You pay like 10 million or 100 million, or you finish 8th or you finish 6th. It's actually the points you need to look at, right? And the reality is that 71 points, 72 points gets you top 4, and 65, 67 points gets you top 5 over the last 12 seasons on average. My question to everybody, viewers and listeners, is: do you honestly think that Tottenham will not get more than 65 points next season? And I can't see us not getting more than 65. I can't do it. I can't see it.
No, can I? Because do you know what? I was chatting to a couple of people about this, and I think it's an interesting point, right? Because last season, I think the points total next season is going to possibly like come down, because like last season you had City and Arsenal that ran away with it, and everybody else who should be in and around that top six, they all had terrible form either for extended periods or not. So I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see, there's going to be a lot more points dropped at the top end, because if Liverpool return and Chelsea, if Spurs get better, if Newcastle get better, then and United, you're going to see a lot of points being taken which weren't taken last season. So I think it's actually going to be really tight, and I think you're going to see that points thing come down. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I think, again, Leo, we've mentioned this point, that if you look at the points Spurs dropped in some of those last 10, 12 games, all Spurs have got to do is hold on to those games that were winning, and you'd have the points there to make up, of course, for next season in the Champions League. That's, of course, with the coefficiency. If Spurs do get fifth next season, that might still be good enough for Champions League. What we are going to do, look, I love how we're getting all carried away, only halfway through. What we are going to do is we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. There's over 1,500 of you plus watching us live as we battle Love Island in the UK. Thank you so much. You're missing Casa Amor right now, although you will kind of catch it up on the ITV Plus, which unfortunately I've got to do. Gutted about that, of course. I love a bit of Love Island.
They're not headline sponsors or nothing, by the way, viewers and listeners.
Working on it.
ITV Plus, right? You know what I mean? ITVX. Get on there.
The ITVX.
The ITVX.
ITVX, you know that. Right, what we are going to do next, we're going to discuss Spurs'. It's been a mad last couple of weeks. He was Spurs', I believe. He was second signing of the summer, if you can't Kulusevski at the time. I know Adam will not let me have that. Vicario is through the door. We haven't had a chance, obviously, to discuss him. So, Pat, I'll open up with you on him. He signs for Tottenham on a 5-year contract. He joins for a reported 6.3 million transfer fee. At the moment, he's been handed the number 13 shirt. However, that might be subject to change, depending, of course, Hugo Lloris's future, which will probably come on at the very end too, when we do a bit of a summary as to those players that we feel may or may not leave the club. Of course, for Tottenham, it's a priority area. They have moved to strengthen in terms of the goalkeeper. Of course, Pat, look, you were on here before. Lots of talk David Raya was going to be that man. Spurs reportedly already agreed personal terms with David Raya. But Spurs decided to go the Italian way once again. They've gone for Guglielmo Vicario. He comes very much highly rated from Empoli. I know, again, there's that compilation doing the rounds of the 3-part save, the treble save. My only thing I would say on that is if he saves the first effort, you don't need to see the other 2 saves. But look, hopefully it was for the cameras and there's a lot more to come. But Pat, give me your thoughts on the overall signing. Are you happy Spurs have gone for Vicario over David Raya?
This is a mixed bag, and I kind of almost felt singled out when Adam spoke about the fans that were disappointed that we didn't get Raya in, because I was one of them. I really had my heart set on David Raya. We had been linked with him for a long time, and he was such a good goalkeeper, Premier League proven, did really well at Brentford, and it looked like we was going to do the business early and get him in. Then obviously there was a stumbling block on what we were prepared to pay compared to their valuation. And we were messing around and it's like, typical Tottenham, we're going to mess this up. But then if you look at it from the other side, maybe it's a different side of Tottenham where we're like, you know what? We're not going to hang around and let this ruin our transfer window. And we went out and did quick business very quickly, very efficiently. And no one really knew about this Vicario guy that we were like in talks with him, and we got it done. So there's 2 ways to look at it. Yes, I was disappointed in David Raya. I really wanted him in. Vicario, I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that I knew a lot about him. I'd never heard of the guy. I'm not one of these people that as soon as we sign someone or we're linked, if I don't know the guy, I'll be honest and say I didn't know much about him. After looking at him, he looks decent. Obviously, he's got a high ceiling. His distribution, his passes look like spot on. Some of the compilation vids I've seen of him picking up the ball and pinging passes, even playing out from the back. He plays the way that we all wanted Hugo Lloris to play, basically, but Hugo couldn't for all of his, qualities. Playing out, passing the ball that wasn't Hugo's strengths. So this guy can do that. Like you said about the 3-piece save, if he would have saved the first one and pushed it further out, he wouldn't have had to make the second and third. But credit to him because his reactions are spot on. 6'6". I like his story as well. He said he's battled from Serie D all the way up to Serie A. Had a great season last year. Some people were saying he was the best keeper in the league last year after Onana. Some were saying he was better than Onana. So we'll see, man. We'll see. He's one that most Spurs fans won't know much about, but obviously have done their research. I like the fact that we didn't mess about, we didn't waste time, and it allowed us to move on to the next one. And only time will tell. Sometimes the fee, like Lee said, sometimes the fee doesn't really signify how good the quality the player is, because Toby was 11 million, Jan 9 million. I mean, we paid a lot of money for Delhi 5 million, Eric Dyer 3.5, 5 million, depending on what you talk about. Even Moussa Dembele at the time, we paid a bit for him, but we bought him in as like an attacking 8/10. Obviously, he then dropped to become our defensive midfielder, and he completely changed his game. So sometimes the fee, yes, sometimes you need to just pay the fee to get the player the job done and get the player in. But sometimes you can be shrewd and smart. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, from what I've seen of him, he looks good. Hopefully he looks like he's got the right mentality as well, which is what we'll need. And he looks like he'll be able to play the way we want to play, move the ball around, ping a pass, cut out sometimes the midfield or the attack, and change things up so we're not so predictable. Because with Hugo, it was so predictable. He would get the ball, drop it on the 6-yard box, pass it to Dyer, pass it to Romero, then they're messing around, and they're like, why didn't you just kick the ball long if they're gonna, So it was just so. Yeah, it was so stupid sometimes. So hopefully Vicario will allow us to play a different style of football. And yeah, Walker 5 million, Danny Rose 1 million. Was that it? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to everyone tuning in and dropping stats and facts. So yeah, no one snapped. That's the thing. But with David Raya, I think 40 million, yes, that is quite expensive. But I do think there is a quality goalkeeper there, and everything that we saw from him last year showed that, and the stats show that. Whether he'll get a move, I don't know. Maybe Brentford are being a bit stubborn and pricing him out of a move. But Brentford will at some point have to drop their valuation because they've already bought in the keeper.
Yep.
So they're not going to have both of them sitting on the bench. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Well, with Rad, just quickly on that one, lads. Right, with Rad, do you not think it's quite interesting if we just flip the name? So instead of talking about Raya, let's now talk about Kane. Just quickly, like it's exactly the same scenario. Raya just stays there for a year. He can go wherever he wants at the end of the season, wherever he wants, any football club that he wants to go to, he'll get paid out, he'll do whatever. See, he doesn't actually have to move. I know he might want to move, and I know you just made it, you said that they've got a replacement. You could say that we've got a replacement for Kane in Richarlison. And now we've just signed Madders, we've got the creative, and we've now got an actual number 9. So, if you think about it from obviously none of us, well, I'd say none of us, we'd ask the question, right? But most of us want Kane to stay because he is Mr. Tottenham and we love him. And from a Raya perspective, and if you're looking at it from a Kane perspective, does Kane want to go? Does Raya want to go? If Brentford want the money for him, like this, we were holding out. Bayern Munich come in and put a little cheeky 60 million or whatever it is, 75 million euro bid, and the club has said, go away, no chance. Brentford have done it. That's outrageous. What are they doing? But Tottenham have done it. So it's the same thing, isn't it? See where I'm coming from, lads? It's like, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get your thoughts, if I can, ads on it. He's been dubbed the goalkeeper who can do doing things out of the ordinary. That's by Italian legend Giovanni Buffon. He's been linked with a lot of the high-profile clubs. Juventus, Inter Milan, Napoli, Bayern Munich, Manchester United. I think even Brighton at one point were also looking at him as a potential goalkeeper to have in their ranks. Give me your thoughts on it, ads, because you referenced the point at the very start. The headline, of course, with David Raya. It never happened. From what you've seen of him, ads, so far, yet to obviously be testing the Premier League. Happy?
I mean, so I think Pat makes the like a good point. It's like we move quite quickly, and I think I'd say two things. This could come back and show me up, but with a goalkeeper in such an important position, I don't think you can gamble on that. Where people go, Leave is taking the cheap option. I don't think you can take a massive gamble and go, oh, he's 40 million. No, we're going to go for an absolute gamble for 18 million. Because if that actually properly backfires, you're screwed for the whole season, right? The other point that somebody made in the chat is with a goalkeeper, you can't wait for the price to come down because obviously Lloris is going. So you can't wait until late in the window to get your number 1 goalkeeper in. You have to do something like that early. So they've clearly done research on a number of goalkeepers, Raya and another one, and then they've made a decision on it. If, again, I believe this, 40 million is a lot of money for somebody, in the final year of their contract, but they've just paid 40 million for Maddison. If everybody in that group who choose the players, including the manager, said, it has to be Raya. Nobody else, I think they'd have got him. I don't believe they would have said, no, we're going to go for a really cheap option and hope that works out for such an important position.
Great point.
I think spot on. I think I agree. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating debate on that, because I do. There's a lot of skepticism out there, even still with me. Like, I do agree with that point, but I'm like, would they though? Is it Levy trying a cheap option? But someone just flashed up in a comment. Someone just said there before, if we've spent 17 million on Vicario, and then now that gives us an option to buy 2 centre backs, which, come on, man, we absolutely need to reline this defence. What about if we'd have got Raya in, but then that meant that Eric Dyer started the whole season? Also
on Raya as well, like, I honestly, I can't tell you that I've ever watched Brentford enough to notice whether he's good or not. I know he's quite a highly, regarded goalkeeper. But if it was 2 years ago when they were in the Championship and we went for him, people would go, no, absolutely not. Cheap option buying a Championship goalkeeper. But then 2 years later, they want him. So it's like, there's always going to be, an opinion on it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'd be interesting to see, of course, how it plans out. One that obviously we'll keep an eye on. It's some lovely comments from him as well. He says, yes, I'm excited. It's a dream for me to be here. One of the biggest teams in England and the Premier League. I'd like to start quickly to join my teammates, because for me, it's a big pleasure to be here. I didn't believe this opportunity. I told my agent it's my first choice. I want to go to the Premier League. A big club like Spurs, for me, it's so exciting. Again, I make that point, as Pat said earlier, it's players that genuinely utterly want to be here. It's players that are so excited to come to the football club. And again, people might think that's corny, but go and watch his reaction when he sees the training ground and the stadium. I know, again, we always seem to, use that adversely, saying that's what players are coming for, the training ground, the stadium. Forget the fact they want to win anything. But, honestly, genuinely players are so excited to be here. And again, there was a lovely article that was in the Italian outlet, which I will get the name from. It's Messaggio Veneto via Football Italia, where Guglielmo's father revealed that Postecoglou wanted to sign the new Tottenham goalkeeper as he worked his way up in the way, just like the Spurs boss did.
Dean Gaffney. Adam looks more like Dean Gaffney than Janssen. And then somebody else put in the chat, Pat looks like Tanganga. Lee looks like somebody else I've never heard of. I look like Janssen. And Ricky got Bentancur. I was like, that is an absolute stitch-up.
I've paid him about a tenner for that. Don't worry. You're going to come on anymore. I keep telling you.
I'm not coming on here again after that.
I did say the more you come here, the more you come here, the calibre of level goes up. So it's up to you to come on here more often. That's what you get for coming on here twice a year, Ed.
Gareth Haggerty, I'm coming for you, mate. That is unbelievable.
Again, I will just say, about 50 years older than I am as well. That's what's worrying me.
To close it on Vicario, lovely words there from both the manager and the player. But what we are going to do, because we are very, very conscious of time, we are going to discuss Tottenham Hotspur's new creative midfielder in James Maddison. And for our listeners on audio, you're going to hear from Tottenham's new, potentially, number 10. Well, what a lovely interview that was there from James Maddison for our listeners on audio. There's over 1,500 of you watching us live. So again, thank you so much for all of your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. And he said Last Word on whatever there. We're joined by the wonderful Lee McQueen, Patrick Tyrant, and the superb Adam Osper, trying to get over the lookalikes that he's been likened to tonight on Last Word on Spurs. They'll get better as the night does go on. But Spurs, look, we're all going to be very, very excited now. We're going to talk about Tottenham Hotspur's £40 million summer signing. He's so far the marquee. He is the lock picker. God, I've been waiting to say that for a very long time on Last Word on Spurs since the Ericsson days. Spurs have got their lock picker. They have made their name in the transfer market. James Maddison is a Tottenham Hotspur player. Lee, to start with you, he pens a contract till 2028. And of course, Spurs had to battle for his signature with Newcastle as well. But it seemed fairly clear for you listen to that interview there from Maddison. He made his mind up. And of course, there was that Postecoglou reference that whether you're going to be here or not, it's going to be an exciting time, a different time for the football club. But Lee, I think we're all excited as Spurs fans to see a creator in that midfield. Some will argue it's been 3-4 years too late. But how excited are you, Lee, of the arrival? And I still get excited when I say this. James Maddison is a Tottenham player, Lee.
Honestly, I'm absolutely buzzing for it. I couldn't get. I think the video. I think the club done a brilliant job in the videos, the social media posts. Absolutely, the PR around James Maddison is literally bang on the money. I mean, I think Becca, didn't she, Pat? I see you comment that she'd done the designs and stuff, and it was on the wall. And then he's out there with his family, and he's sitting on the side of the stadium, and to see his little boy in the club shop. And I just want to say, I know all the players, obviously, all of the club watch Last Word On Spurs. They are watching right now. So I just want to say, welcome, James Maddison, and your life is going to change dramatically, not just because you're on the crazy train at Tottenham, because you're about to, or your beautiful wife is about to drop twins, and I've got twins, so I know exactly what you're going to be going through. So if you want to get in touch, obviously at Lee McQueen matters. You know what I mean? You can you can tweet me up for some twin parenting tips. No, look, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's an absolute Tottenham signing for me. Absolutely bang on the money. He, like I said earlier, goals and assists. He goes left, he goes right. I mean, playing in a. I mean, I know we talk about Spurs team later, but I've got him playing in a. I suppose like an Aussie idealist team, Adam. To be fair, like I've got Son, Kane, like you. I'm putting Porro up there in the front three, and I'm dropping Decky in the number 8. So I've got Maddison, Decky actually playing attacking 8s in the team with just behind Son, Kane, and Porro. And I think that could be absolutely devastating next season. Could be
one way of it could be devastating.
Well, I mean, look, go back to Postecoglou, right? At the end of the day, it's how he plays. Yeah, that's what we get used to.
So. No offense, that attack with Dyer and Sanchez, I dread to think of that Brentford game because of rugby score.
No, we'll have better defenders by then.
We'll have better defenders, man. We've got VVD coming in, haven't we? Hopefully, and we've got Tapsoba, whatever. But look, the point being on Matters is that everything about the PR, everything about the signing, everything, the words was just absolutely bang on. And if we can get a couple more like that in defence of that quality, we've got a chance to do something. Not win the league, of course not, but we've got a chance to get back 4 or 5 points. I mean, it was only 9 points off of the top 4 place in the end, which is terrible considering we would have been third, I think, if we'd have beaten Southampton. That day when Conte we'd have gone third. So
it's mad.
So if you look at the drop off from there to from that Southampton game to where we actually finished, that's not a realistic drop off all of the time. Does that make sense? So we're going to improve from that, and James Maddison will come in. I just think with the whole Kane situation as well, I can't if I'm and. Thankfully, I'm not for all of you lot. But if I'm Kane, I'm looking around now in that dressing room, and I've got James Maddison there, knowing what he can do. He's not as good as KDB, right? Maybe some people might think he is, but man, working in them chairs, that lockpicker, Rick, that you've wanted for ages, that is him. And
agree.
They're going to score goals, mate. They are going to score goals off the back of that. And I just think that Kane might be licking his lips now at the fact that James Maddison is going to be his Tottenham Hotspur teammate.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Pat, I can come around to you. Look, he wowed in his 5 seasons at Leicester, chipping in with 55 goals, 41 assists in 203 appearances. The arrival, of course, does give Postecoglou a real huge boost in terms of what he wants to do for Tottenham in that final third. As Lee referenced there, the Australian system, you'll see he'll line up in one of the 2 number 8 roles. And there's some, again, massive stats on Maddison since the start of the 18-19 season. Only Messi and Ward-Prowse have scored more direct free kicks than Maddison in Europe's top 5 leagues. Most non-penalty goals scored by midfielders in the Premier League since the start of 2021 season. James Maddison, 29. And as I said, he scored 30 goals and contributed 24 assists across the past 3 Premier League seasons. Only 6 players have done that. Kane, Son, 2 of our own there, Salah, De Bruyne, and Fernandes and Ollie Watkins. So he's in really good company, really, when you think about those stats and what a player, Pat, we're getting for 30 million. It's unbelievable, really, when you think about that.
Yeah, esteemed company. The guy's a great player, man. 26, 27 in November. So he's literally in the peak prime years. My only reservation is sometimes he can be a bit injury prone. Like last season, he played 30 games out of 38. It's not too bad, but obviously he missed, a chunk. That's almost a quarter of the game. So we just hope that he can stay a bit fit. But in terms of what he brings to the team, everything like you said, Ricky, the lock picker. I saw your interview on Sky Sports News and I was like literally nodding in agreement with everything you were saying there, because that's exactly how most Spurs fans will feel. We've been missing and crying out for a guy of this ilk since Christian Eriksen left. The Eriksen, not the last 18 months, because that wasn't the Eriksen that we kind of knew. We could see he wasn't really in it. His heart wasn't with it. But the Eriksen in his prime, in his pomp, James Maddison will hopefully be that and more. And like you said, I mean, chances created since the start of the 18-19 season, Kevin De Bruyne, 437, Trent Alexander-Arnold, 373, and then James Maddison in third, 347. When you look at it last year, only 12 players combined for more goals and assists in the Premier League than Maddison. He had 19 basically goals and assists combined, 10 goals, 9 assists. And when you look at the numbers of the players that was ahead of him, Haaland, Kane, Salah, Ivan Toney, Callum Wilson, Saka, Kevin De Bruyne, Rashford, Odegaard, Ollie Watkins, Martinelli, and surprisingly, Leandro Trossard. Not surprisingly, because he's not a good player, but you wouldn't have thought he would be there. But yeah, the guy's quality, man. He brings goals, assists, creativity, and something that we've been crying out for so long to our front three, play behind them. And it just gives us options because he can play as a 10, he can play off the wing, and he's going to basically leave defenses puzzled, and he gives the defense something to think about, and he allows us to play a bit more free-flowing football. Kane doesn't have to drop as deep. We don't have to solely rely on Kulusevski to run at players. Just gives us different options. So I'm so pleased that we got him in. There was a lot of talk that we wouldn't be able to compete with Newcastle, but obviously then the rumours started coming out that he only wants to go to Tottenham. He wants to stay near London. He's, envisioned playing for Tottenham. So it's brilliant, man. And then when you see him talk and when you hear him, what he's got to say about the coach, playing with Harry Kane, playing at Spurs, you kind of can see the guy wants to be here. And again, like Lee was saying, and like I said earlier, that's the kind of guys that we want coming into the dressing room. People that are proud to put on that shirt, people that want to be there, people that understand what Tottenham are about and where we need to be. Because as bad as we were last season, we were only a couple points off 6. We was, 7 or 8 games, 9 points off 4th. We dropped so many points in games that we can all name. If we would have just stayed just with a bit more quality and a bit more, cohesiveness or a bit more nous or know-how, we would have been in the top 4. We were 3rd or 4th for most of the season. It's criminal that we ended up finishing 8th. We deserve to finish 8th, don't get me wrong. In a way, it was almost this wake-up call was needed. And hopefully now the shake-up is happening. I saw someone in the comments say, Pat, you're better than this. I expect this from the other guys, but not you. But the thing is, when Tottenham do good work or do good business, I'm going to commend it. I'm not going to be one of these guys that are just going to be negative for negative's sake. It doesn't make sense. So when we sign a James Maddison, I'm going to be happy about that. When Harry Winks left and I see people being negative, and I'm going to say, you know what? Congratulations on your move, Harry Winks. You did well for the club at one point. At one point, Harry Winks was a really good player. He was starting for England. He was doing bits in the Champions League against Real Madrid. He started for England against Spain and played fantastic. He was a good player. He didn't reach his potential. Things have happened, but we don't have to be negative and be disrespectful to a guy who's leaving. You can say, well done, thanks for your service, and hope the guy does well where he goes. Like, we don't always have to be negative just for the sake of it. We all know there's issues at the club. We all know there's a lot of problems, but Jesus, come on. If you're not positive with what's going on right now, you're never going to be positive. And, there's clubs, Man United still haven't, they've made one signing, but you can see what's going on at Man United. You can see what's going on around the league. There's lots of clubs that haven't done what we've done. There's no way that we're finished. There's no way this is the finished article. But for the fact that the window's only been open for, technically 2 days, and we've done all of this, it's good work. Like, come on, you can also commend what's going on and also still say, yes, there's work to be done, but so far, so good. So that's where I sit with it.
Yeah, I think also you're alluding to the fact there, Pat, if we can see a plan, then why can't we get behind it, right? Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I think we can see something is coming up, and look, fingers crossed that continues. But again, we won't get away from the fact that there's still a lot of work to do. As if I can come back to you, Pat made a really good point there again in reference to that interview from Maddison, because he said there's a real hunger about the place. You come here, you've got a feel for the club and the people. I think it's brilliant. Like I said, I'm very happy and can't wait to get going. He referenced Daniel, actually. They spoke to the manager, spoke to Daniel, and they both spoke very highly of the football club. And speaking to the manager, how important it's going to be. And they made that point that it was actually Postecoglou's words that really convinced him that next season's going to be completely different to last season. And as Lee said, it's almost like if you want to get on the train or not. So how big a signing is this for you, Ads? And also, how impressed was you by that first interview from James Maddison?
I mean, I was actually really impressed with the interview. Like, I know you can watch interviews of players, but I was like, the way he spoke, he was very authentic. He came across genuine. And I think someone put in the comments, he's meant to be arrogant. And I actually sort of had a bit of that perception of him, but he didn't come across like that at all. He came across actually quite humble. And there seemed to be like a fire in him when he was talking. He seemed really ambitious, which is something maybe I hadn't thought about. And so that interview really impressed me. I think Pat touched on his stats just before. I think what's so impressive is, last season Leicester got relegated and his stats were incredible. And also you have to then add into that, he's going to be making chances, for Son. Son's going to be making those runs in behind and he's going to be the guy putting him through. We've been desperate. I was a massive Eriksen fan and I've always thought Eriksen was amazing and we never, and he held our team together in its peak and we've never had that. And I think one other interesting thing which hasn't been touched on, I think it will help a player like Bentancur for us to keep the ball. The biggest thing we had last season is we couldn't keep the ball. The only person who could keep the ball moving was Bentancur. And actually, if you've got Bentancur in there with Maddison, you've actually could hold possession. And where we got into trouble so many times last season is we couldn't retain possession. So you then go deeper, and you're almost trying to find Kane all the time. Whereas now, we've got a couple of players in the middle who can actually keep possession. Then you can move further up the pitch and know that, teams will be wary that we can, interlink. I'm really interested to see what, I still can't work out the formation. Lee's just flung a few bits about, but I still quite can't, could we end up in a 4-2-3-1 again? There's lots of really interesting things. Could you play Kane? Could you shove Kane back up as a 9? Could you play even Richarlison and Son behind Kane? There's so many different ways in which we could potentially play. It's interesting and it is really exciting. I think hopefully people have touched on his injury record. I think one guy said he's played 30 games a season for the last few seasons. Hopefully with a bigger squad, he won't be as relied on to play all the time like he was at Leicester as well. So he can get a little bit more of a break. And I agree with what Pat said. I've agreed with most of the things, by the way, about Winks as well. The kid's been at Spurs since he was 5 years old. He's a lifelong Spurs fan. Why would you not want anything? Why would you not want to wish him well? He's like every single one of us here that lived his dream and played for that club. Didn't work out, but he gave everything, didn't he? Whether he was good enough or not in the end because of his injuries or whatever it was.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, we'll give Winks a quick 5 minutes. We want to know how we're going to fit all this time, and we are going to try, like I say, keep on track if we can. We are constant. We're approaching 10 o'clock. We are going to try and cram it all in. We are. I'm going to come back around to ads in a second, just on a point that I'll be interested to get his thoughts on. But just to finish off on some of the Maddison quotes, because there's some lovely ones in there. He said, I absolutely feel that feeling of being a Spurs player. It's something I'm very excited about. It feels good even putting on that white shirt, the iconic Tottenham shirt, having a look in the mirror. Myself, my agent, my family are already happy with my decision. As I keep saying, I can't wait to get going. I'm hungry for more, bigger and better. And he also said, Arsenal, he cannot wait to look forward to that first North London derby. My God, he could be an instant hero if he scores in a win. Interestingly, ads, I know, again, I think we spoke about this before, but there's a real connection with Tottenham and this agency, CAA Base. Spurs, I think now, I think Maddison now becomes, it's now 3 transfer winners in a row in which a base client has arrived at Spurs for big money. And it's actually 4 clients if you actually count Postecoglou as well. So, again, it's interesting. They actually do also hold ties with Gleason Bremer, Eberechi Eze as well, both base clients. So, again, keep your eyes on those as this window progresses. But I think it's interesting now to see the business, because I presume, and listen, you probably know this better than me, a lot easier doing business when they're part of the same agency, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Base Soccer, the guy that runs it is a guy called Leon Angel. And, I mean, Leon's a massive gooner. Just so you know, and that guy's right. Ange is also a base client. If you go back, they had Walker, Rose, Lamella. They do know Spurs very well. I don't know how influential they are at a club. Ultimately a club has to make its decisions on a player. And actually, if you go through Base's players, the ones that came to Spurs, they've all been pretty good. If you actually go back through them, you've got Walker, Rose, Lamella, the ones that you just mentioned, that they are one of the 3 biggest agencies around. So they do generally have top players. There will be some agencies that are more influential, other clubs, and it helps get deals done. But, the guys that run it there, the guys that run Stella know Spurs really well and have done for a long time. But they'll deal with all of the big clubs.
Yep.
So it probably helped with the manager, and it also probably helped, with Maddison in terms of probably getting the deal done quicker.
It's interesting. Again, we'll probably see again. Keep your eyes on that factor and see how Spurs.
Wi-Fi?
We're losing out a little bit there. The Wi-Fi is a little bit buffering. But I say, we'll just keep an eye on CA base. Again, the connections with Tottenham there towards the end of the window. Let's see what they do. Look, we will rightly give Harry Winks his 5 minutes because he's given a lot to Tottenham. And again, I think it's a shame towards the end, the way it finished. Again, many would say he wasn't good enough for the club. I just think probably both outgrown each other, really. I mean, Lee, look, he departs the club for a fee of 10 million to Leicester City. As Adam referenced, he joined Spurs at 5 years old. It brings an end to a real long association with the football club. Of course, made his senior bow under Mauricio Pochettino 8 months later during a Europa League win. He obviously featured FK Partizan. He then went on to feature regularly for the football club, of course, involved in a 2019 Champions League final as well. He did find his time limited, of course, under Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Antonio Conte, ending up on loan at Sampdoria. Although in the second half of that season didn't play any part. Well, sorry, the first half of the season didn't play any part due to an injury. And I think had Sampdoria actually stayed up, he may well have actually got a permanent move there. But Lee, probably the right time, was it, for Winksy to depart?
I think so. I think definitely was. I think he probably could have gone permanently maybe 18 months ago. But no, nonetheless, I think he's had some injuries, some quite big injury problems as well at Sampdoria last season. And as Kevin on Twitter, nice one, Kevin, points out, he also captained us. Winksy was our captain as well. We did actually captain the football club. So the grief that he gets as a 5-year-old joining Tottenham, living the dream that most of us want to do, and captain the great Tottenham Hotspur, just lay off the lad, right? He's a good. I think it's a brilliant move. I was having a really good conversation. Don't normally happen on Twitter, does it? Normally it's a cesspit. You just dive in and just hope for the best. But I was having a really good conversation before Madders joined us, actually. And they were saying about, what do you think a good fee is and all that sort of stuff. And I said, look, I did pick it as well. I said 40 million. I think that actually Winks going the other way for a championship as well would be a really good move for him, because the championship is a strong league as well. I mean, if you're looking at Sampdoria and Serie A that's just gone down, I bet there's a few, especially Leicester in the championship next year, they're probably going to come straight back up. Tough league, good move for him. Get his career back on track. I don't know how old he is. He's not massively old. He's only 26 years old. Is he something like that, Winksy? He can't be that much older than that. So, he's still got 27, yeah. 27. Wow, okay, yeah. God, 27 years old. So, he's still got some decent years left in him, and he is a good footballer. I mean, one of my biggest memories, well, there's two memories for Winksy that springs to mind. Oh, sorry, there's quickly three. The first one is when he ran the show in the Bernabeu. I think you just referenced that, right? And he did. He was absolutely outstanding. I was there, and he was absolutely superb, right? The second one is when he scored his first goal against West Ham, and that, by let's be honest, that is what we all dream of doing, and the bloke's done it, been there and done it. And then, of course, the third one was, I think it was the 94th minute, was it, against Fulham, when he's popped up at the back post with an unbelievable header, Winksy. What a header that was. Stuck it in the back of the net, and we ended up winning, and that was our title charge.
Who got the assist? Who got the assist?
It was. I always get him thing. It was in G, wasn't it? Clinton in G.
The top signing. It was Nkudu.
Nkudu, yeah, Nkudu, yeah. Another top signing, both. So they're the three moments. And look, and Adam, I completely agree with what you said. If he's not good enough, he's not good enough. But fair play to Winksy. Let's just lay off the grief, right, and just give him a clap and wish him on his way. Thank you for your service, my man. Yeah,
very quickly, Pat. We've got a lot to get through, but thoughts on Winksy's move there? Probably a good club for him. You'd think he'd probably come straight back up with Leicester if, of course, they hit the ground running under the new manager.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant move. I think it's the right move it's the right time, like Lee said, for both club and player. Winksy was a really good player at one point. I really liked him. I still like him. I have no issues with him. And that's what sometimes I do struggle to understand why Spurs fans will get onto players that are Spurs through and through. And yes, they may not be good enough now, but they're trying their best. And obviously, for whatever reason, it's not worked out. But I said it on Twitter, unless they move to Arsenal, Chelsea or West Ham, There's nothing wrong with wishing a player who's moved on good luck and thanking them for their services. And I stand by that. I don't understand why you'd not want to see him do well. I want him to do well. I hope he gets player of the season in the Championship. There is a good player in there. And funny enough, I was watching a compilation of some of his passing and some of his highlights. And I was like, wow, this guy's actually got a lot of good passes in his locker. So if he can play as a deep laying playmaker, number 8/6, move that ball around, get some confidence, get a string of games in him, Leicester have got a gem there. And he should be able to boss the Championship and then come back into the Prem next season with that confidence and belief back in his sails. Because you can see right now he's shocked. He's kind of shot of confidence and he's not the same guy he used to be. But yeah, man, I like him and I hope he does well. And I want every player that leaves Tottenham to do well, except if they move to a rival.
From Dopat, win trophies. He'll probably win a championship with Leicester, come back.
Yeah, let him do that, man. He deserves it. He deserves it. It's
more medals than Kane. Can make it up.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
He's next on the agenda. I tell you.
It's the right time, and we've got to move the deadwood on. We've got to refresh the squad. So I'm happy that we've done it again. Another bit of business done nice and early. So these are things that you can say as a Spurs fan. These are positives that I'm seeing right now, and it's good.
It's so similar as well. I agree, and I look at Jaffet Tanganga, and I think somebody put in the comments as well about Jaffet as well. Maybe Ollie Skip, obviously he went Norwich. Jaffet has struggled because he was outstanding when he made his debut. He won the game against Man City.
Man City. He had Sterling in his pocket.
Well. Literally. The Liverpool game. Yeah. He's just dropped off a cliff because he's not playing any football. And I'm sorry, going off piece a little bit, Rick. I know you're getting panic attacks here, but ultimately, you look at Jaffet Tanganga, and he could fit brilliantly into Leicester. Into where their strength is. He could be a very good player for Leicester in the Championship, hooking up with Winksy or Southampton or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like drop down, go in, and then come back. One of our own.
The reason why, Lee, I'm in panic mode is I've said we're aiming for a 10:15 finish. I've got to discuss Harry Kane. That's half hour in itself. Right, just very quickly, Ad, just on Winksy. Look. Was you surprised, Ads, firstly, if he didn't get a Premier League move, and secondly, if Leicester's probably the best club for him? Because ultimately, it wasn't too long ago, as Pat referenced, he was playing for England, doing really, really well, and I think Gareth Southgate genuinely really likes him. So I wouldn't be massively surprised if he came back up with Leicester and he's back in the England squad in 12 months. What do you think?
I don't think he'll get back in the England squad. I think that ship has probably sailed. I think it's a decent move. Leicester are a good club. They're probably going to get promoted. He's probably going to play every game. They play decent football. Where's he going? He's not going to go. There's no point in going to like a lower Prem team that's going to be struggling, because that's not going to suit how he's going to play. So whereas here you're thinking actually going to go to the top of the champ, you're probably going to be one of the better teams. You play decent football, so it's probably a good move for him. I think, it comes back to a lot of things. I thought, I absolutely hate more than anything when Spurs lined up when Postecoglou used to change it, Winks and Sissoko in centre mid, because you knew that nothing was going to happen. And Winks was at his best for Spurs when he had good players around him. He was sitting there with Dembele and Eriksen. So therefore, you've got easy players to pick the ball off. He can play those better passes. He knows that there's going to be people around him. And that's basically, what most players need to improve. People have sort of spoken about, Skip. It's the same type of thing. If you put Skip sitting in a 3 with Bentancur and Maddison, and you just say, right, you just sit, you'll see a much better player than asking him to go on and attack. Anyway, I'm digressing a bit on, from the Winks thing here, but it's, I think it's a good move.
On that, just to interact with you, is the Champions League final. The central midfielders we had was Sissoko.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't make it up in our biggest ever game, and I think you must have been pulling your hair out, mate.
I was, like you said, I was at the Bernabeu with you when Winks absolutely bossed that, and I was like, wow, like this, like we've got a proper player here. The way he played, but again, he played almost in that quarterback role, didn't he? Deep and dictated play, and had players playing in front of him. So. Will he get back in the England squad? I don't think so, but I think it's a good move for him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting again, just to quickly say this, that confidence.
And Lee's point again, to finish, mate, and it is about Tanganga's 100% certain. People hammer players all the time. If you play once every 2 months, you're never going to be on top form. It's impossible in anything you do in life. It's like going out for a run for the first time in 6 months and expecting to be as good as you were when you trained for the marathon. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So
great points.
Bang on.
But honestly, great points. That's my train of thought. What we are going to do, we are going to go for all of our sakes. We're going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners and audio. Look, you get 3 talkers on here. What am I expecting trying to stick to a running order? Absolutely no chance. We're joined by the wonderful Lee McQueen, the superb Patrick Tyrant, and the brilliant returning Adam Osper from Sports Finance. Makes me laugh. I think the comparisons are getting better as the time's going on, so maybe we should stay to midnight. We'll see how we get on.
I've got a Winks one. I'll take that.
Yeah, we've got a Winks one. There you go. He's left the club. We've got a Winks one. No problem with that.
27 years old, Ad. Winks, 27. Happy day.
Yeah.
I'm getting Nick Knowles here. He's about 15 years older than I am. Bloody hell.
Dean Gaffney.
Don't worry, Ad. We forgot in the morning. It's fish and chip paper by the morning, I promise you. Right, squeezing in our last segment, we're going to discuss Spurs triggering Pedro Porro's release clause, where we are on the future of Harry Kane, and finally, pre-season summary and what Spurs still need to do between now and the end of the summer window. We said 10:15. Let's see how we get on, boys. We've got 15, 20 minutes. What chance have we got here? Right. Pedro Porro, we'll do a quick 5 on this one. Spurs have triggered the €40 million, 39 million release clause for Pedro Porro on a permanent basis. The wingback, of course, joined Spurs in January, the option to make it permanent. This has made me laugh. 17 appearances for Spurs under 4 different managers. Just the regular norm at Tottenham. Just the regular norm. Scoring 3 goals and assisting another 3. Yeah, isn't it funny? Lee, start off with you. Pedro Porro, happy he's permanent?
Yes, I'm happy. I like him. I think attitude. I think he wears a smile on his face all the time. I think it's as basic as that sounds. And like to your comment earlier, Rick, about being corny or whatever, I think you have to be enjoying yourself if you're going to be successful. Like what one goes with the other. So happy and positive is what I see Porro being. I think, some of the statistics that he's got in there, I won't take him because Pat's probably got him in his blue book. By the way, Pat stole my blue book, right? Wasn't it? There you go. Look, I told you.
That's not a blue book. That's an encyclopedia.
He's got it, mate. It's the blue book, mate. I'm telling you. But he's, goals and assists that he's brought to the team. And I'm with Adam. I've got him in my team, but I've got him as a Decky replacement on the right, but with Decky dropping in as an attacking 8. So I think it's quite interesting for 2 reasons. One, Decky come out famously last year and said that he thinks his best position is a 10. And he hasn't played there at all season for us, playing half a game maybe under Ryan Mason there. And I don't think Porro is a fullback, personally. I don't think, every time I've seen him play as a fullback, he's been destroyed. I mean, he got destroyed by Harvey Barnes, ironically, didn't he? And Maddison against Leicester. We got done 4-1 on his debut. He's been destroyed there as well. I can't remember who else it was against. Maybe Newcastle. But everyone got destroyed that day. So it's one of them, wasn't it? So that for me is where I see him. So I am pleased that he's there. I think he's going to get better and better. And with somebody coaching him as well, that maybe can be coached to be a fullback. And we might see him as an attacking fullback, like a Kyle Walker type. But personally, I see him further up the pitch as a winger. And yeah, I'm delighted that he's here, Rick, to be fair. It's another quality addition. Well, he's expensive. I mean, if you look at our record signing, 65, what did we pay for him in 45? So he's expensive.
39 million, 40. Yeah. He's up there. He's up there. Yeah, he's up there. Yeah. No, I agree. Pat, he says, I don't want to wake up from this dream. It's undoubtedly one of the best leagues in the world, if not the best. And being there every day is a gift for me for all the work I've been doing since I was little in my land. Pat, happy with relation to Porro now being permanent?
Yeah. I mean, definitely happy. I didn't see us not making this official. But it's good to know that it's done, dusted. There's no, because the Kulu one kind of dragged on and it was getting to a point where some people say, what's going on? Is someone going to nick him from us and all of that stuff? But it's good to just get the Porro one done nice and early. Very good finisher for a supposed wing back. The guy finishes with class. He can strike a ball really well. Good on free kicks as well. Good on corners. He's got quality, man. Defensively, he definitely needs work. We've seen him, like Lee said, we've seen him destroyed by Leicester. I think he got destroyed in an international game. I can't remember, but I think it was against Wales or Ireland or Scotland, something like that. And he got done in on that. But he needs to work on his defensive.
Scotland, Pat.
Yeah, Scotland. Yeah. He got toasted.
He
Got
did, mate.
spun, sat on his ass. So he definitely needs to work.
Really send him to me, Pat. Yeah, looks good. This definitely worth 40 million at the moment. God, his value's going down.
Well,
It's going down by the minute when you're talking.
Going forward, he's worth it. Defensively, we've got to be honest. We can't just like lie and just say all the, But he does need to work on it because essentially defenders need to defend. The thing is, as a wing back, we don't play with wing backs in a Postecoglou system. It is 4 at the back, 3 in midfield, 3 in attack. So he will need to work on his defensive capabilities, or we do what Liverpool are doing with Trent and just stick him in the midfield and see what he can do. But I'm not sure he's got as good as a pass as Trent has. So he's an option, good player. Looking forward to seeing him have a full pre-season. The thing is, what kind of annoyed me in January is that we took so long to get him in and we essentially wasted a month, which he could have had a month to bed in and settle in and understand the league and the team and the manager, where we just messed about. And in the end, we got him in and, we wasted a month of his time and our time. So, yeah, but no, good player. Happy to see him back. And let's see what he can do in the upcoming season.
What I've realised is before we come on to Kane is never ask someone for 5 minutes on a player because it ends up being 15, 20. Let's close it with you on Pedro Porro.
I'll be quick. I seem to be the quickest one here out of these guys.
You reckon? Yeah, possibly. Let's come over to you. Pedro Porro, thoughts on it?
We've heard that. That's what we've heard. That is the rumour.
Countdown starting now.
My missus just walked past down there. She's shaking her head.
I bet she is. Go on, lads.
I think I think you made the point, Ricky, actually, which is the best point, is that he came in and Conte got sacked. So he's come to a new country where Conte's got sacked. The team has absolutely fallen off a cliff. He's had 3 managers, new country, doesn't speak the language. If you put that on anybody else to go and do their job somewhere else, imagine what would happen. He's never going to be in his best form, is he? So, I think he's got quite a high ceiling. I think as attacking, he's got a lot of potential. Is he a fullback? Probably not, unless that can be massively coached into him. But I think it's a decent signing. I think, you saw a couple of the goals he scored. His delivery's good. Yep. He's got a good attitude. Apparently, in the training ground, again, he's another one, got a very, very strong mentality, pushes everyone really hard, and is a good person to be around the place. So I think all of those things are important. And I don't think we should underestimate how much of a shit show it must have been for him to come into last season, and you're never going to play well. So pre-season, I'm interested to see what he looks like.
Absolutely. Let's stick with you for what could potentially, hopefully not derail this show too much. Harry Kane's future. Last time we're going to, just so everybody understands what we've got left here, we're going to do a quick pre-season prep and ultimately very quickly a quick couple of minutes on who needs to go and who needs to stay. God, this could go really, really horrendously wrong depending on time here. Let's quickly go to you on Harry Kane. We understand Ange Postocoglou will talk to Harry Kane once the striker returns from holiday. If we are, and bring up the speed where we are with Harry Kane, he's been heavily linked with a move to the Bundesliga, of course, to Bayern Munich, and where they've already made their first bid, rejected by Tottenham. We are expecting Bayern to come back with another offer. Spurs maintain the striker is not for sale, and he's part of the plans of Ange Postocoglou ahead of the new season. And what we understand today, as this show will go out to in the morning, is that there has been no official from Kane reply to want to leave the football club. That could always change, but where we are right now, Ads, what do you expect to happen if you can sum it up for us with regards to Harry Kane? Will he be a Tottenham player come the end of this summer window?
So I just made one point before that on this, because it frustrates me, and I tried to talk to people on Twitter about it and they just don't get it, okay? Harry Kane does not care more about staying in the Premier League at Spurs and breaking the Premier League goal scoring record than winning. Okay, people think he's going to choose that to not go to a team like Bayern Munich if it happens because of that is just absolute garbage. When you weigh up as a professional footballer what you want to do in your career, it's win. So he'll be like, I want to win trophies. If I can't, and I also, further down the line, would love to break the Premier League goal scoring record. He will not jeopardise winning over just to break the Premier League record. That is a nice to have, okay? Because I talk to these people all the time and they don't get it. And I work with footballers all the time and I know how it works. So I just want to make that point so people get it clear, because it's easier to listen to when I explain it rather than argue with people on Twitter. However, I think he'll stay. I think he'll stay. I think he'll see out his contract. I think he'll stay for the reason that not because he wants to stay. I just don't think anyone will come in around 100 million for him, which is, I think, if buying came in at 100 mil, I think you'd probably do it. And I just want to make another point when people go, well, he'll go to Bayern, it's a farmers league. Again, that's utter garbage. In world football, in the nicest possible way, Bayern Munich are a much bigger club than Spurs. And people are deluded to think otherwise. They are a huge global powerhouse. And to go and play for them, even if the league isn't as competitive here, is a great, great club and a great move to play for, to play in. Yeah. However, I reckon he'll go on a free next year.
Okay, appreciate the honesty again. We've had ads on a number of times. He's discussed, obviously, where we've been with players in terms of contracts and obviously financials behind that. So, ads, really appreciate, you're, again, telling us that there, because it's very hard on Twitter. You only get 256 syllable, or 256, words now to say your point. You might not get that these days now. You might get shut down completely. You can't even view a bloody tweet with what's coming our way now with Twitter. That's another debate, which we won't go into.
Can I just drop in? This guy here saying it's a nice to have. I don't know the name of 11 players. It doesn't matter whose names you know. As a footballer, they would rather win the Champions League than break the Premier League record if they were given the choice. That's it, Mike Stakes. That's it. That's just a fact.
Pat, anyway, no, that's fine. I'd really appreciate it. Pat, let's get your feeling on it. Harry Kane, looking at the time here, we've got conscious of time, quite a bit of fitting already still. Pat, Harry Kane, where do we stand in your opinion? Do you expect him to be a Spurs player once that deadline comes to a close?
Yeah, I said it. I've been saying it since. I don't see him leaving. I really don't, because Harry Kane is such a good footballer, probably top 5 footballers in the world. When you look at what he can do on the football pitch in terms of goals is the hardest commodity and the most expensive commodity and the rarest commodity. When you look at world-class, genuine top strikers, there's 3, 4, maybe 5 of them. Karim Benzema was one of them. He's just gone to the Saudi league, so you forget him. So you've got Harry Kane, Victor Osimhen, you've got Mbappe. You've probably got 2 or 3 more that I could possibly name. But yeah, Lewandowski, and these guys, Harry Kane's up there easily. He scores 30 goals year in and year out. The guy's sensational. He was the quickest to 20 goals in the Champions League before Haaland broke it. The guy scored countless goals in all sorts of competitions, and he can do everything you would want from a number 9. Next season, if he doesn't renew his contract, he can go anywhere in the world that he wants to go. He's that good. Most clubs would take him in a heartbeat. It's just negotiating with Daniel Levy. And obviously Daniel Levy's going to price him out of a move right now. And I say price him out, but when you see players like Maddison moving for 60 million and this guy moving for 50 and 70, it doesn't make sense for Kane to go for anything less than 70 or 80, even with a year left, because of how good he is. But then that's not realistic that our team's going to pay that when they could get him possibly for free next year, obviously with a big signing on clause. So it's a difficult one. But I can't see him leaving Tottenham. I hope for our sake that over the course of the season, he falls in love with what we're doing, really falls in love with what's going on behind the scenes, that Postecoglou hits the ground running and he signs an extension and stays there for life. That's wishful thinking, but I've never been one of these guys that is like, oh, Harry Kane needs to leave. He's too good for us. We need to sell it. Why would I want to sell our best player? I've never understood that thesis. People saying he deserves to win trophies. He has had the chance to win here. It hasn't happened. We don't need to get into it, but I want him to win stuff with us, with Tottenham. So I want him to stay. I think he will stay. Hopefully, we all have a brilliant season. When I say brilliant, you might not have to finish in the top 3 or 4, whatever it is. But sorry, I'm going on a bit, aren't I? But
I'm laughing at Paddy's comment here. Ricky 1 hour into the stream. I'm conscious of time. Ricky 3 hours later.
Yeah. Let me stop. But yeah, Kane will stay. Fingers crossed he signs a new contract during the season. And he's a brilliant player. So in a sense of, I do feel sorry for him in terms of the price tag, but it does make sense when you look at all the players that are moving for 60, 70, 80 million. Harry Maguire was 80 million a couple of years ago. If Harry Maguire's worth 80 million, how much is Harry Kane worth? So you've got to also look at the market. So that's kind of where I lie with it.
This is the reason why many people think this is very much a comedy show. I'm going to ask Lee for a very quick thought on Harry Kane's future. Lee,
it's comedy because you can't ask for a quick comment on Kane.
No, you can't. And you're right, in general.
player in our football club, certainly in the last kind of since he broke through 8-9 seasons ago. But I'm with Adam on this. He does want to go, and I know that he wants to go. And people don't want to hear it, but he wants to go to Bayern Munich. That is the reality. Will he go? That's a very different story, because Daniel Levy and Harry Kane and his representatives, they've got to come to an agreement. And again, what doesn't make sense to me, and this is just from a guy who's a season ticket holder watching football, is that he can go wherever he wants with no qualms in a year. And he's got this year to be able to see how it goes with Maddison, for example. See how it goes with Decky dropping in as a forward 8. See how it goes when Son isn't carrying a badass injury all season. See how it goes when you've got this front forward attacking football. So it doesn't, and he does love the club. Like, let's be honest about it. He absolutely loves the club, and he wants to. I think if you was to give Harry Kane a scenario, which would be you are guaranteed to win trophies at Tottenham, I think he signs an extension in his contract. Right, that's what I think. But here's the thing: there's only probably about 6 or 7. That's a debate for another day. There's only probably 6 or 7 clubs in world football that guarantees you winning trophies. Right, guarantees you. Now, we'd have put Chelsea in that top 6 or 7, maybe three seasons ago, 2 seasons ago. Guaranteed win trophy, go Chelsea. They finished 12, 17 points behind us this season, and we had an absolute shocker. So you can talk to me about it being in transition or this, that, and the other. And Michael Owen had a real good opportunity with Liverpool. He left. He went to Real Madrid. Liverpool won the Champions League. Right? Michael Owen didn't. So, Alan Shearer can come out all day long. Teddy Sheringham was with Teddy a couple of weeks back. They can come out and say, oh, you've got to do this for your career. And like I'd said, Teddy did it, 31 years old. He went to Man United, took him a season, didn't win anything, and then he won the lot. Kane might have had his chance. Kane would be a treble winner now. You could argue that maybe they wouldn't have won the treble without Haaland. But given the fact that Pat just said that he scored 30 goals in the Premier League this season, there's only 6 less than Haaland, and a team that finished 8th and shipping 63 goals. This guy is a monster. Haaland's a cyborg. Kane is an absolute monster. He is absolutely brilliant. So I think it's a difficult one. I think that he will go, but I think he'll stay for this year, because it doesn't make sense to go. The good thing about Harry is he's fully fit. He's really fit now. The ankle injuries are behind him. Like, he's only 29.
Don't say that now, Lee.
Well, no, he might go.
He might go.
Well, to be fair, he's had. I think he's missed 3 games. I think of Premier League football since 2018. So England captain, and and personal records might not mean as much as winning everything else, but he's the England's record goal scorer. Which all of them greats before, we talk about Lineker, we talk about Shearer, we talk about none of them are there now. Kane is like just pushing on and pushing on. He's only 29, So I just think that he loves the football club. His family say he's about to have another baby as well. Like, moving to Munich. All of this stuff does come into it. So, I mean, you're no better than us.
Yeah, but can I just jump in on that point? Because people pick that up. He's building a house and that. He'll still build his house because he'll be coming back to England to live. That's irrelevant. I've never, ever worked with a footballer in 15 years where there's been a chance for a big move and they've gone, do you know what? I'm not going to go there because my family is settled here. I'm going to go there for 2 years. That's what it'll be. It'll be like, he'll have a nanny. There'll be an English school. They'll have everything they want to have. It's not a massive move. And Munich's only like 2 hours on a flight. It's not, people think it's this massive thing. Footballers are entrenched in moving. It happens to all of them. It's part of the life of being a footballer. So that isn't that won't be a massive consideration. Sorry,
Can I just
Dean.
say one more thing, Ed, and you can come back on this point before we do, like I say, look to close it. Ultimately, Bayern Munich are not going to bid, and they have officially bidded for the player, if there's not an interest in the willingness of Harry Kane to go there. So there must be an interest of Harry Kane to go there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bidding at it, would they? Wouldn't be coming back with a second bid.
There is an interest, Rick. I'm telling you now, there is an interest.
Yeah.
I know there is an interest there.
Yeah.
But whether or not it happens, That is another thing that can add to that as well, right? But at the end of the day, Daniel Levy is not going to sell your prize asset, and it's not even an ego thing. This is a guy that can get you back into the top 5, which gets you Champions League football, top 4 next season, based on 30 Premier League goals that he scored. You know, why would you not do that? And you could go and get your money back. You're not going to get your money back, and you're not going to replace him if you accept a bid for 60, 80 million. And why would Bayern Munich pay 100 million when they can get him for free in a season? Like, why would you do that?
My biggest concern of it all, I'll be honest with you boys, and again, feel free, Pat, you want to come back on this, is that my biggest concern is that Spurs need to put some form of a deadline on it, like I said back when City were bidding for him, because ultimately we're going into a new season with yet again a new manager, and everybody knows what that first press conference was like for Nuno Espirito Santo. He wasn't asked, what's it like to be the Tottenham manager? The first question is Harry Kane staying at Tottenham? And I don't want that situation to derail the summer. We've made some really good signings. Vicario, Maddison coming through the door. We should be excited. We should be looking forward to what's to come. I am dreading if this situation is going to play out through the summer and we don't look to shut it down. And that's my biggest concern, that ultimately, for all the good that we're doing, I don't want this Harry Kane situation to derail it, Pat. So do you have a final say on that before we look to quickly move it on?
Yeah, I don't want to, like you said, I don't want this storm cloud or this rain cloud hanging over us and everything is just about Harry Kane. Is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? Is he going to, what happens next? And the media love it. They love to sell our players quicker than any other team. So for them, this is their wet dream. They love this saga that's going on. I would love for Harry Kane to come out and obviously shut it down. But realistically, if everything that Lee and Adam are saying is correct, he's not going to do that. So it is a bit frustrating. It's one of these things, isn't it? Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to live with it. Harry Kane is a sensational footballer. We're blessed to have him. The fact that he came for our academy and we paid nothing for him is just amazing in itself. You know, he's like I said it when I first came on Last Word on Spurs. He's the best player I've ever seen in a Spurs shirt. He's that good. And I think only if, God forbid, when he leaves, people will wake up to how good he was. A lot of people take him for granted because they see him week in and week out. I see fans saying that he's a cheater, he's a diver, he's a this. Not Tottenham fans, rival fans. I'm like, you guys are so stupid because he's, there's no blemish on the guy. He's a professional through and through, a quality guy, a quality player, never caught up in a scandal or any sort of nonsense. So people just make up stuff because they just hate the fact that he's that good and that clean and, I would love to see him stay at Spurs forever. I hope that he does have a change of heart. I hope that he just sees Spurs moving in the right direction. And obviously that's on Levy. It's on Levy and the managers to make those things happen. But yeah, in regarding his future, until he comes out and clarifies it, it's going to be what it is, Ricky, unfortunately.
Yeah, we shall see, of course. We don't want to
I think it will go on throughout the summer because I think if do
you generally see this going on up to the Brentford game, this situation that we're in?
Well, unless Bayern basically bid 70, 80 and then go, right, we're not going any higher. And they effectively pull out because Levy's going to outprice them, which is, I think, what will happen. I think Kane will stay. And I absolutely desperately want Kane to stay. I'm just giving you what it's like knowing what footballers are like, right?
Yeah.
And that's why some people are sulking. I'd absolutely adore Kane to stay for all of his career. But I think Levy will price him out. So I think it depends how far down the track Bayern go with that. If they bid 70 million final offer tomorrow, then I think it will be done. And then you'll see the end of it and we can move on. But if Bayern had dragged this out through the whole transfer window, it's going to drag on the whole time.
I don't mean this to derail the show, but I have to ask you the back of that follow-up question then. Do you actually expect Kane to start then against Brentford on the opening day?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
Because the same situation happened, of course, against Man City. He didn't start on the first day of then 2021. So that's why I ask you that question.
I think it's a bit different now. He pushed really hard for the Man City move, and they went about it. Him and his team went about it really, really badly, and I don't think they'll do that again. I think they will act like the ultimate professional that he has been 99% of the time that he's been at Spurs. He's an amazing pro. I think he'll act properly professionally.
Okay. Look, we'll see what happens. Again, there's lots, obviously, guesswork going into what the next few weeks will play out. We'll know for sure Spurs going on tour. Harry Kane will hopefully be there. We talk about the tour. We saw the players, as we look to close this show, return for pre-season. We saw the under-21s return on Thursday, and the early first-team arrivals were back at Hotspur way. They included club captain Hugo Lloris, Yves Bissouma, Pedro Porro, Emerson Royale, Tungi and Ndombele, Jed Spence, Brian Hill, Ryan Sessegnon, Sergio Reguilon, Fraser Forster, Japhet Tanganga, Harvey White, Brandon Austin, and Alfie Whiteman. We also saw the injured Rodrigo Bentancur back at the training complex as part of his rehabilitation. Lee, to start with you, isn't a lot made of body language when those players come out in that 3-minute video? Just very quickly, Lee, as we close this show, give me your thoughts on the pre-season video Spurs put a couple of them up in the last few days.
Well, the video is a video, isn't it? I mean, for me, I would sell Ndombele, I'd sell Lo Celso, I would loan out Tanganga, I'd sell Joe Rodon. I'm undecided on Hill. I'd probably give him a go under Ange. I'd sell Ryan Sessegnon. I'd actually give Reguilon a chance because we need some sort of cover at left back. I did a Twitter poll earlier in the week, and it was defenders 12,500 votes, which, by the way, was more votes on a Twitter poll than people that signed the petition to get Daniel Levy removed from the football club, just to put it into context. And this was about our centre-backs, right? And the centre-backs, who should go? Dyer, Davies, Sanchez, and ultimately Sanchez and Dyer led the race. I mean, everybody wanted Sanchez and Dyer to go over 12,500 votes. So, I see Sanchez moving on. I think it's about time for him as well, for him to move on, and we do need to rebuild them centre backs in. I think Dyer will stay, but I don't think he'd be first choice. But I think he's got 1 year left on his contract as well. And then you got to think about some of these other people that are coming back in, like you said, from loan. You've even forgotten that they play for Tottenham, so it's a massive job to do there, Rick.
Absolutely. Pat, let's come out of you. Then we'll look to close it with Adam. Look, I laugh and joke that so much is made, of course, of the pre-season preparation. Those players are coming back now. They're looking to impress the manager. Jed Spence looked very, very happy to be back. And, I'm very, very cautious of going or trying to pretend what's in players' minds upon their return. Everybody's free into what they want to wear, how they want to dress, how they want to, come out and prepare for pre-season. And obviously those that come into the training ground complex, some look more happy than others to be back. That's just the impression I got. Basuma looks like he's ready to go. I think it's unfair for me to say who isn't looking like they're ready to go, because every player is different in their mannerisms and how they prepare. So, Pat, did you take anything away from the couple of minute segments that the club uploaded on those players returning?
I looked and watched the video, and at first I didn't really make anything of it. But then when I saw the comments, I watched it again. And to be fair, for me, Hugo Lloris looked like the one that was least happiest to be there. He looked like he didn't want to be there at all. But no one picked up on that. They all picked up on Tanguy and Ndombele walking out the car. They said, he's lazy. Couldn't even open the door of his Range Rover. Someone opened the door for him. Then they said he was moving like a snail and a slug, and he just looked so slow and lazy. And there was a lot of stuff that was overly done. And yeah, I know some people may not be his biggest fan, but come on, man. Like a 10-second clip of him walking is people are reading way too much into it. Obviously Lee did the buy and keep or sell. I hope that we keep him, and I hope we see a player there. We're going to need depth. We're going to need options in midfield, especially if we're playing 3 in midfield now. And the guy is quality, one of the best footballers, I've seen in the flesh, if he actually sticks to his guns and plays. But obviously that's another thing in itself. But yeah, if I do my quick, fire sale, who we want to, Dyer needs to go, Sanchez needs to go, Ben Davies needs to go. I will keep Ndombele. I'll give Reguilon a go. I want to see what he's about. Jed Spence, I'll keep. Oliver Skip, I would actually sell. I don't think he's good enough for Spurs, even though he's only 22 and he's young. I just don't see him being good enough to really do what we want to do. So for me, it's a hard one, but he's got to go. Obviously, Basuma keep. Richarlison keep. Who else is there that I've probably missed out? Yeah, I think that's it really. But yeah, Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Davinson Sanchez, they all need to go. I see that there's links with Davinson Sanchez to Galatasaray. I hope that happens. I hope it happens quickly, and that's another one done. Eric Dyer said that he's looking to stay and fight for his place. That's a mentality that I'd love to see from other players, but not him. Unfortunately, we know what he's about. We've seen how good he can be. We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly from him. I think for his sake and our sake, he needs to look at pastures new. But, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, and obviously, Hugo Lloris, he needs to go as well. So sell. But I think that one's already done. I think he will go. And I think we're facilitating a move for him because of how good he's been for us.
Yeah, as to come around to you, thoughts of course, on how you feel pre-season's going to go. I mean, Spurs have been linked with quite a number of players they're working on. We're seeing Edmund Tapsoba, Mickey van der Ven are the two high-profile centre-backs Tottenham are after. I'm intrigued to know from you very quickly to close it, what you made of those couple of videos of pre-season, and also what you feel Spurs need to do between now and the end of the window.
I don't read too much into it, to be honest with you. It's how they perform when they train. I mean, if you want to pick holes, I pick. One thing I did notice actually, if you want to pick on people, was when they all came in and the cameraman said, "How did you get on? How was your holiday?" Reguilon, Porro, and Bentancur ignored the guy. What does that mean? They've got horrific attitudes? No. Outside, they're all hugging each other and happy and smiley. So, Pete, you can pull out whatever you want into anything, right? I think Ndombele will go. I'd get rid of Pat. You missed Perisic. I think he'll go. I think Sessegnon will go. Dyer will definitely stay.
Yeah, I miss Perisic go, and
I think
Perisic.
Sessegnon will go,
well,
definitely.
So,
I think Perisic go. Sessegnon will go. I think Davis will stay. I've got no problem in keeping Davis as a squad player. I think he's a professional, a good guy. He's a very good human being. I think he's not a bad person to have there. Sanchez will go. I think Tanganga will go. I think Rodon will probably go. Dyer will stay. Spence would keep. I mean, the right's an interest. I suppose you keep Spence and Emerson as your fullbacks if you're going to play Porro up. I'd get rid of Højbjerg as well.
It's interesting that.
Flapping his hands around on the centre of the pitch. I don't give him as much grief as he's got on Twitter, but I think it's more actually if Postecoglou wants to play this attacking, fast-paced football, I don't think Højbjerg can do that. And I know people can say what they want about Skip. I think actually Skip can turn over the ball and move it quite quickly. And if he's just sitting as a pure defensive midfielder and his job's to tackle and give it, I don't think he's that bad at doing that. And I don't think he's that bad to having a squad to do that.
My midfield three to start against Brentford is Basuma as a 6 and Madders and Decky as 2 advanced 8s. That's my midfield three. That is it. Basuma can mop up and whatever. I'd keep Højbjerg personally. I think that he scored some unbelievable goals for us last season, vital goals for us, and some of them assists. And he plays a more advanced role. I think he's got the right attitude, behaviour personally. That for me, my midfield three is Madders and Decky as advanced 8s, and Basuma sitting and mopping up. That's luckily for all of you watching and listening. I'm not the Tottenham manager, but that's what I'll be playing.
Yeah. And I think it's very clear what we've got now in terms of what Spurs have done incomings. You would think hopefully that the task is underway in terms of the outgoings, because again, there's a lot of work Spurs need to do to offload those players. But I've got to say, it's been an absolutely bumper edition of Last Word On Spurs, where look, I have to apologise. We have completely run over time, like usual. So again, it's been a wonderful night. I've been standard. We've enjoyed a wonderful Lee McQueen, Patrick Tyrant, Adam Osper. Lee, we should really find Lee McQueen these days. I don't know where they find Lee McQueen. God, does no one know to find Lee McQueen?
I mean, you get 600 views now, don't you, Elon? So you can find me on Twitter, Lee.McQueen on Insta. I don't post anything about Spurs on Instagram. That's all other stuff I do. You can, follow the business. I'm doing all the status stuff. I've been doing it for a couple of years. My business, my platform does. Not in football per se, but with a lot of other enterprise clients. So you can't really find me anywhere, Rick, other than here. This is what I do, right? Lee McQueen, get involved. Didgeridoo.
Lee, thank you so much, bud. Always a pleasure. Pat, thank you, mate. Obviously, you're going to be on a lot throughout the summer of what Spurs have got to come pre-season-wise as well. Oh, Pat, we starting to get excited again?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what he can do. I want to give him a chance. I said to everyone, and I'm going to stand by it, he wasn't my first choice, and I wasn't happy with it, but he's here now, and I'm going to get behind him. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's going to be negative just for the sake of it, because at the end of the day, I want to see a good Tottenham team, and I want to see us do well and push on. So, yeah, so far, so good. There's lots to delve into. Hopefully, we'll be talking about some incomings, Tapsoba and Mickey van der Ven. We need both of them, at least. Both of them have to be done. And then I would like another
Tosin as well. Tosin's good.
Yeah, Tosin, exactly. For me, we need 3, personally. But yeah.
We ain't getting 3.
Yeah,
that will be Christmas, mate. Come on. I think that is like.
Listen, I can only hope and dream.
I know, yeah, we can all dream.
Honestly,
But yeah,
why
in
not?
terms of finding me, Patrick Tyrant on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter mainly is where you'll see all the football stuff. Like Lee said, Insta's a bit more personal, but still a lot of football. And then YouTube as well. Just type me and you'll see me. But yeah, it's always been a pleasure. And it's been a fun show, man. It's been good.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed
it's always fun. Even in the darkest times, Pat, we do try and enjoy it, as painful as it can be. This man will know about it. It'll be more for pre-season. Hopefully it's not too dark. Listen, we've got the wonderful Adam Osper back. Ads, you keep saying that I think the likeables are going up, and the lookalikes have been getting better as the show's gone on. So you need to come on here more. I know it's been difficult, bless you. Obviously, listen, busy businessman. It does also go home and also sometimes away with Spurs. So always on the move. Ads, real pleasure having you back on. Where can everybody find what you provide on Tottenham? I know, again, Twitter's predominant, isn't it? And tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's where I try and, I mean, it's meant to be sort of work, but it sort of delves more into Spurs mainly. But if you don't know, I'm a financial advisor. I've been working with footballers for about 15 years. My handle is @sportsfinance. You don't want to find me on Instagram unless you want to see pictures of my children and my dog and maybe me on my runs every so often. But so I'll leave that one out. But yeah, it's always good to be on here.
Honestly,
in esteemed company.
Well, listen, Ads, we absolutely love it. We will try our best, Ads, and bring you back if we can, of course, for some of the previews that we'll have coming up next season. When Ads is quite lucky because generally he's busy after games when there's defeats. He's never around to come on and view the bad side of the club. He can always give us a preview where there's an optimistic side. So, Ads, a real pleasure. Thank you so much again for your time, bud. Really enjoyed it.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Top man.
Thanks for having
Absolutely
me.
brilliant. Guys, thank you so much. There's been about 1,700 of you that have watched us live for this show. Again, massive thank you for all your support. And I will just say this now because I'm not normally a pusher on subscribing, but look, we've got a lot of content to come across the summer and, of course, pre-season, upcoming transfers. We've got you covered here on Last Word On Spurs with some of these wonderful guests that you see on your screen. So go and give us a subscription if you like to do so. We've got a lot planned, but from the wonderful Lee McQueen, from the superb Patrick Tyrant, from the brilliant Adam Osper, guys, who've been the Last Word On Spurs. Please keep safe, keep well. I might have to ask Lee to end this one. Come on, you Spurs. If we can find the way to end the show, come on.